Howdy, friends. Welcome to another edition of Dave's Imagination as we recap last week's D&D game. Now, last week we met our adventures. They just covered the holy symbol of Ravenkind and then finished a short rest. And as they did that short rest, they contemplate if they're going to use this brazier that I put in the first level of this tower at Tsolenka Pass. They are in this tower right here, Tsolenka Pass, and in this tower I had placed the brazier that was in Strahd's castle. This is a waypoint, a teleportation point for that teleportation brazier, and I thought that I needed to put it here also because how do they get back, right? So I put that same brazier in this Tsolenka Tower, and right here it is, and that's what it looks like as they contemplate using this brazier. They read through the hints of all the different places they can go, and they're not 100% certain of exactly how to use it and where these locations are. So instead of risking it and trying to use this, they make the decision that they're going to press forward on the path that they do know. Now they go out and they press forward, and they come to the bridge. I describe the bridge as it's written. It's some 500 feet up. The wind is blowing. It's snowy. Visibility is not so great. And in halfway across the bridge, they see a cloaked figure, a dark figure on the bridge. And that dark figure I present to them as this picture right here. And yeah, that's pretty death. And they're all screaming, "Oh, what is this?" And they first think it's Strahd, but then they look at the hand and they say, "Oh, well, maybe it's not Strahd." And to be honest, that was oversight on my part. I liked the picture. I didn't notice the skeletal hand. And Vrika and Katuta go up and they investigate this dark creature, and they try to communicate with it, but it's stone cold. It's not moving. It's not responding. And they go back and report to the rest of the team, and they send in Loin, our cleric, who has a super high perception. He goes up there and he perceives, and first of all, he perceives that this is Strahd, and or at least it's supposed to be, as he notices that the wisp of his cape blowing in the wind is in some sort of pattern, and so he deducts that this isn't a real thing; it's a mirage. And so one of them uses their mage hand to go up and touch it, and sure enough, it goes right through. So with the discovery of the mage hand, then now they contemplate getting the crew across the bridge. Now I had foreshadowed there is a giant bird. There's a giant bird that is in the area. They are aware of this, and I've described it. That bird is as big as the bridge. Barinka checks the bridge for traps to make sure there's no triggered trap due to that mirage, and there isn't. It's just a crumbly bridge. It is peril full, but and our wagon is just big enough to get across this thing. We have driving this wagon is Ruckus. And as the group leads us across this bridge, and once everyone got on the bridge, I had the ROC rock, attack. Now I give them actions as they attack, as they're trying to get this wagon across, and the rest of the group dives for cover inside the other end of the bridge, all but Ruckus and Strider. And so Ruckus and Strider, they're trying to get the cart across as this bird becomes closer and closer. And I do animal handling on Ruckus's part, and he does just fine. And he gets the wagon up, but it's blocked, and he can't get it to the other end of the bridge. And Ruckus here tries to do a dexterity check to dive under the wagon and let it go past so he can push it through, but he fails his check. I think he even had advantage on that check. he fails his dexterity check, and then he uses his inspiration to reroll it, and he still fails it. So he ends up getting run over by the wheels and is laying prone. He's laying prone on the other side of this bridge. I got Strider token. Strider's laying here on the bridge, and that's when the rogue comes and attacks. The rogue comes up, grabs Strider, does a tremendous amount of damage, and the rogue starts flying away with Strider in tow, and that's when everyone's held actions pop. A fireball, even I think was part of it, and dealing damage about 100 points worth. I think it was 95 points worth damage to this rook, and the rook does indeed drop Strider. Now, again, he's over this ravine. It's 500 feet tall, and I'm thinking Strider might buy it. I had a plan of how I was going to save him, but I didn't need to the ingenuity of our druid. He who doesn't really transform himself very often transforms himself into a giant eagle as he falls, and he survives the encounter with the rogue as the rogue flies away. And so that encounter was done. Now, as an eagle, he had 4 hours of time as an eagle, and the group pushes forward down the path. Let's see, which is it? This one? Yeah. So this is the image I use for the path, to give it the sense of the path is narrow, it's treacherous, it's windy, it's snowy. They have their cold weather gear, but it's not pleasant as they push forward through Tsolenka Pass and push toward the Amber Temple. Eventually, they do make it to the Amber Temple. For the Amber Temple. As I jump to the Amber Temple, here I'm using Foundry, right, guys? I'm using Foundry as my virtual tabletop, and I have a Amber Temple intro. And so eventually they make it to the Amber Temple, and with statues of Amber that are in the front there. But they notice a crack off to the side, and they walk up and they investigate, and they go investigate the crack. And as I jump to activate the first page, the group goes, investigates the trap, and they hear voices in there, and they contemplate going in there. And uncharacteristic of our druid, he's being very decisive. He goes up there and makes up his mind, no, don't want to go that way. And the group actually follows him. So that was fantastic. And they decide to go in the normal way. And so go, this is the first level Amber Temple. And so to do this Amber Temple, I don't use Fog of War because I'm doing, as you can see in the picture here, I have my table has a TV, and I have most of the group is in person at my house. So they're looking at the TV that's inset in my table. So I can't use normal Fog of War because I don't want to have two projections going. I have just the one. And so that we're all using the same thing, I just put these boxes over the pages, over the different rooms. And so they go into the temple, and they make up their mind that they're going to go to the right. They glean all they can glean of this main foyer, this temple area, but they decide they're going to go to the right. And to the right, there's not much there. And then they tried to go north, and then they see the crumbled floor. Most of the group goes to the right and goes into this lectern hall, right? And even in that lectern hall, our highly perceptive cleric picks up there's some movement behind the lectern, and they're going in carefully to investigate that. But while they do that, most of the group does that. But Batuta and Strider decide they're going to check out this room at the other end of the hall. So they go into this room to the north, and to their chagrin, they find a stone golem that activates, and I believe it was Katota that was there, and it activates, and they can't get out of there fast enough, as I believe Strider had a turn, and he was able to back out. But then in the initiative count, we had the golem. The golem went next, so I put that out there real quick, as they're fighting the stone golem. And it pummels this stone golem is no joke. It would hit, and it gets a nice bonus to its hit attack. And it hits, Tota puts up a shield, blocks one of them, and takes 19 points of damage. and he's not feeling so good. Strider runs up and turns him invisible, and as that's happening, I have the other group, the rest of the team hears a noise, and I pull them from nearest to furthest into the room. And as they did that, I had them roll initiative, and then so they each got a turn as they ran in there. But then after those turns were done, we entered a normal initiative count, and through that initiative count, eventually they do beat the stone golem, but not until it really pummels Katota. Now, while that battle was happening, and so one of them was toward the back, and they hear this door close. And so after that battle is over, Olak moves up and tries to open the door, and it moves a little bit, but it's pushed back. And as that happens, Varinka's our strong Goliath goes up and forcefully tries to open the door, and she doesn't roll that great. The 14, pretty good, but it's not great enough. It does open further, and you hear oof, and from the door gets pushed back closed, and you hear someone from behind says, "Leave me alone! I don't want to have whatever you're buying. It's scary out there." And that is how we ended last week. And so that was our game for last week. That's December 9th. That's our game. And that's a summary of what we did. So until next week, take care.